Next speaker is Senator Mary Siri Kearney.
Thank you, Acting Cathaoirleach. Minister, you're very welcome, and thank you for taking the statements today. Given the title, I have thought long and hard about this, of the fact that we need to broaden it out and address people of various reasons why they would come to Ireland. But one of the things that really struck me before today's debate was that last week we had the announcement of the ministers where they're going to travel promoting Ireland and Irish issues for St. Patrick's Day, and that is a very valuable economic gain for us as a country, as well as an inward investment in every way. And for as long as I can remember, around St. Patrick's Day and the presentation of the Shamrock in Washington in the White House, on the agenda has always been the undocumented Irish in the US. I've had scenes over the years where family members haven't been able to come home to funerals because they were living a very good life and working very hard, but in America, and they were undocumented and consequently couldn't come home. We've had people, very decent people, expelled from the US because they were there as undocumented. And so I suppose I'm struck by that contrast, that we will make appeal, and I have no doubt the delegation going to Washington this year will do exactly the same. It'll be addressed somewhere, either on Capitol Hill or in the White House. And so it is entirely unreasonable that we would stand up and that we would make statements in this House while we are lobbying other governments for our own Irish that are there and haven't gone through proper channels to get there. And I think that we have to keep that perspective always in mind. At one point in my life, I was an economic migrant. I had to go and I had to work in England because there was no work in Ireland at the time that I left school. So being an economic migrant does not make you some sort of substandard human. It is a person who is trying to fend for themselves, for their families. Men who arrive in our country may do so because of the risk of either they're members of the gay community and at risk of being murdered in their own countries, or for many, many other reasons that are not always apparent. So I am uncomfortable. I know we have a faster process when it's supposedly safe countries, but I'm even uncomfortable with that language, to be perfectly honest, because it sends a discriminatory message, unintended, but it does, that there are safe countries, because you can come from a country that's so-called designated as a safe country and still actually be in fear for your life and be a person who requires asylum in Ireland. I am very proud of our history as a nation of reaching out to the world, supporting the world, no matter what has happened around the world for the entirety, certainly at least of my lifetime. And it's more years than I care to remember, we have always been high givers on any, our per capita giving, our generosity. So what are we saying? It's okay to send money abroad, but if they come here, woe betide them. We're going to go out and we're going to protest and we're going to shout that they should be burnt out or things like that. And it's only a very small cohort of our communities do that. So I suppose I think about things like that. I think about the fact that I have ties to the recruitment industry. I've been an advisor to the Employment Federation and Recruitment Federation. And every recruitment industry, for every industry, is crying out for people of skills. They're crying out for workers. We have a shortage all across. Since COVID, it's so noticeable that our hospitality industry, no matter what you go into, is short of people to work here. So I suppose I would say let's let people in, give them abilities to get work permits. But have that response while they're here. Have a response for the undocumented here, and we have done that, and we have given amnesty. But I think that we need to be very careful. I believe that we need a very strong information campaign. We've had the COVID advertising, we've had that. We need a very strong information that dispels the misinformation that's put out in communities. But this idea that somehow we get a veto over men in particular. I spent 1.5 years working in the criminal courts. I devilled with a master who specialised in prosecuting sexual offences. In all of that time, not one of the perpetrators in those was a foreign national, not one of them, and we were in trial every day of the week for the entirety of my Devling experience. Down in the criminal courts today, this case is going on. I guarantee you there are more Irish than there are. So the idea that somehow because somebody is a foreign national that we get a veto over them, or we want them Garda checked and we want them this, that and the other. Your next door neighbour could be, you know, your Irish next door neighbour, your family member. You know, so this othering, because it suits a narrative, is really quite appalling. You know, we are in the middle of an appalling war in Ukraine, an appalling suffering. You know, I will stand at the GPO on Friday as we remember it with the ambassador, and think of all of the things. You know, this time last year I was fielding calls from parents in Kyiv trying to get their babies home and trying to come out and trying to bring their surrogate mothers home. You know, it's been the most extraordinary, but it's not unique to Ukraine. And we should be supporting people around the world. We are people of great privilege. Yes, it's a challenge, but let's embrace the challenge. But I think we need an information campaign, certainly in dispelling any of the myths. Thank you.